You're watching Team Talks. It is now time to talk about the Premier League leaders. The Gunners travel to Burnley this weekend, and Mikel Arteta is under no illusions as to the challenge that awaits his side.
The game against Burnley is going to be really tough. They are extremely well coached, and it's called really well what is done with the club and with this team. It's formidable, and when you look at all the games, and I see 5 of those, the last games that they played, very, very tough team to beat.
Darren, Arsenal had an outrageous October. 6 games, 6 wins, no goals conceded. And people are still complaining about the way in which they are scoring goals. Yeah, it's hard to believe, isn't it?
It is hard to believe. You don't get extra marks for artistic impression, just pats on the head and your hair ruffled. I think as far as they're concerned, what he has done has been an outstanding vindication of his transfer policy. He's brought defenders in as if he's collecting them, and they have provided the platform for Eze to do that, and all of their attacking players to do that. 3 goals conceded in their 9 games so far. I think it's 6 clean sheets in a row now. And it took a bit of brilliance from Liverpool Szoboszlai to beat them. City scored against them as well.
Ironically, from a set piece.
From a set piece as well. They are the leading scorers in set piece terms as well in the Premier League. Arteta's built a machine. I don't think he will care one bit what anybody else thinks of him. They are there by right.
I feel like they can't win because when they were scoring elaborate goals, people were accusing them of trying to walk the ball into the back of the net, and now the set pieces are an issue. 31.3% of their goals in the Premier League have come from open play. It's
11
the fewest.
of the 16 have been
the
from
fewest
set
in the league.
pieces, yeah.
Yeah. Tim, winnable?
Yeah, absolutely. The amount of time what he spends on them set pieces is 100% sustainable, and it's not. It's about the delivery. Delivery is second to none. Whether it's Saka, whether it's Odegaard, whether it's Declan Rice, it's on the button, and they're attacking for their lives. You know, and they're big guys. And Eddie Howe talked about it today in his press conference about when you're recruiting players now, you're recruiting size as well. Whereas, you know, you used to have a couple of Oompa Loompas around, didn't you? You know, couldn't get the ball off them. They're popping it around.
Google them if you don't know where they are at home.
Not anymore. Land of the Giants. Land of the Giants.
You know when you won the league with Blackburn, how soon into the league did you start to think, we got this?
Beginning of the season, we believed, because we finished second the year before, so we had real belief. But we had a momentum. If we couldn't win games, we wouldn't lose them. We shut up shop. It was a point. The mood was fantastic going into the following week. I just felt we had real belief. I just see this side is exactly the same.
Is this run of form better than that run of form that you had to give you that confidence, backing up that belief?
No, we had a run of form like that, but they're doing it different ways. But I don't care how you do it, and I don't think he cares how they do it. You know, they can open teams up. Of course they can. And we'll see that because they've got the quality to be able to do it. But if it needs to be a set piece, a team sitting back, when we won the league back in the day, teams used to go, no matter who the teams were, if they were at the bottom of the league or they were at the top of the league, they used to go head to head. They go toe to toe. No one started a game saying we're not going to lose today. There's a lot of teams now in the Premier League sit out there and just put a block in there and just say, hopefully we can take a draw. And they need to find different ways because it's difficult to break down. When you play forward against defence in training, sometimes it's hard to break down the defence when you put the reserve team in there. But they have to find a way. They have to find a way on a Saturday, and what they're doing it with is set pieces. So when they score on a set piece, then the other team has to come out and then they open them up because they could have got more space to occupy. But I love them. I mean, it's hard for me to say, but I just think they tick every single box. And at the moment, I just think they've got 2 hands on the trophy. It's theirs to lose.
What's interesting, though, is I interviewed Declan Rice after the Fulham victory and said, you know, back to the top of the table. Are you looking at that at the moment? And he said, you know, we've been here before and it's not something they're thinking about. What do you think is really happening in the dressing room? They be talking about it?
Yeah, they're talking about it for like, they finished the bridesmaid 3 times. Now they're going to be the bride. They're getting ready for it's their big day. And there's never going to be a better chance. The quality of what they have around the squad, in depth now, when they get injuries, doesn't matter, just bring another one in. They're coping at the moment with it, but it's not over because Liverpool are a juggernaut and they will come with a run, like I said, and Man City will still be there. But apart from that, I think, for me, it's Arsenal's to lose.
Quick question, how do you think Burnley approach this one? Because they made it difficult for Liverpool. They went toe-to-toe with Manchester United as well.
They will be parking the bus.
Oh.
Talking of Arsenal, in contrast to Liverpool's struggles, Arsenal looking pretty unstoppable right now, aren't they? They've gone through October without conceding a single goal, and they could open up a 7-point lead at the top of the table with victory at Burnley tomorrow.
I see everybody in their toes, ready for the next game, and accepting that challenge and understanding that the opportunity is there as well. And if we do what we have to do, we have a big opportunity to win again. We have to focus on the journey and what we have to do every single day. Fixing the outcome, of course, we want to win it, and the preparation is towards that. Great. And now what you have said, all the protocols, processes, ambitions, everything, and now you have to focus on what you have to do. If not, you get distracted with the rest, and I don't want any of that in and around the team.
Well, they've got big ambitions this season, haven't they? Jodie, Jamie Carragher says that Gabriel is maybe the most important player in the Premier League at the moment. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I can see his importance to Arsenal. I wouldn't
Not to other sides, no.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't necessarily call it in the Premier League, but I can see Carragher with his defensive hat on and seeing how important Gabriel is to not just the defensive line, but how important he is at set pieces. He's a bit of a leader. But me personally, I really like the partnership with him and Saliba. I know Saliba hasn't played every game this year, but I'm also saying I think them as a partnership, with the way that the team defend, it enables players like Gabriel to show their leadership qualities, not only in both boxes, but with how he is with the rest of his players as like, he's not the captain, but if you've got a few of those leaders in your team, I agree with Carrie. He's certainly one of the most important players.
Yeah. Okay, one of. We'll settle on that.
Yeah.
It feels like they do have quite a few leaders now there, doesn't it?
I think that's what the manager's been trying to conjure up and build. Yeah. I think most of the top clubs and most clubs nowadays do their due diligence trying to recruit. And they've certainly recruited really well, both with the technical gifted flair players as well as the sturdier ones that are, like I say, going to help the defensive aspect of it, and they're certainly a big side to be competing with.
What do we make of all the set-piece talk? Because 69% of their goals this season have come from set pieces. Is it sustainable, or is it a case of, well, if you keep scoring from set pieces, well, we'll keep going with it until it isn't?
Yeah, I think in the short term, I think go with it. I think you find your strength and you find your way to win games. We were speaking off air earlier about when Arsenal go and play teams now, a lot of teams are in a low block, so it is hard for their more sort of attacking players to break defences down. So you do have to look at other ways to score goals, other ways to beat your opponent, and they found something here, and they found a gem in their set piece coach. We see quite a lot of him, don't we, on the sideline? But
rightly so.
He's like you say, rightly so. What he's doing and the ideas that he comes up with, the players have got to implement it, but you find weaknesses in your opponent, and football seems to be going that way where there's a lot of teams that are very set piece based at the moment, and he's really helping them out.
Does style matter? I know Arsenal fans at the moment, they won't care how they're scoring their goals, and they won't care if they're winning by 1-0 or 5-0 to an extent. Whereas if you speak to opposition fans of Arsenal at the moment, they're saying it's so boring to watch. Like, if they go 1-0 up, I'll turn the TV off.
Yeah, but it's back to Mark's point. The respect that teams are giving the better teams nowadays means that they're going into the low block. But if you come out and want to play against Arsenal, they'll tear you apart with their passing and their quick movement and their attacking ability. But most teams ain't doing that because of the level of where Mikel Arteta has got his team to. I think they've been like that for a couple of years, to be honest. And yes, would they like to be creating more chances from open play? I'd probably say yeah. But even when people were trying to be critical of Arsenal and Arteta at the beginning of the season, you're like, if you're making Man City go defensive at this point in the season already, you deserve respect. There's a reason why Pep has never really ever done that, because he's usually outwitting or outplaying the opposition. And when I know they didn't end up going and win the game, and same against Liverpool, but it took an amazing free kick. Yeah. That's where you get a manager that's focusing on performance rather than just results is important for the long-term ability of the group, because every interview that he was doing was saying, look, we're playing well. Yeah. I'm quite happy. I know we haven't got over the line, but we're playing well. And I think that's what gets sometimes missed when you're talking or being critical of managers, is like, when your performance level is good and you're forcing teams to defend, then you're doing something right.
Well, he's come out, I think, was it after the Palace game, when he said that was the best performance we've had this season, or that is the happiest result that I've had, which is maybe indicates that. A big question for both of you. Is this Arsenal team this season better than Liverpool's team last season that went on and lifted the Premier League title?
Is it better?
It's tough.
Yeah, it is a tough question. I'm probably going to say no. I don't think it is. I think the one advantage that they do have is, and one thing that I look at them probably compared to Liverpool's team this season, is they've been together a while now. Yeah, a couple of additions here and there, but they've had a good period together. And I think you look at Liverpool's team that won it last year, and they had that. They had a settled squad for so long that had brought them success. They knew how each other worked. They knew how they worked on and off the pitch. And I look at Arsenal now and what Arteta's built over time, and I see that. I see that they've gone for a long-term plan. Yeah, this has to be the year that they finally do it. But they're in a great position to do so.
What do you reckon?
No, you can't, just purely because we're
at this stage. At this stage of the season.
Yeah, I mean, and listen, they're different teams, but as I said, they're two great teams.
Okay.
Welcome back to Team Talks. For only the fourth time in history has a defending Premier League champion lost 4 Premier League matches in a row. We're going to hear now from Arne Slot, who's enduring the worst run of his managerial career so far. But the Liverpool head coach believes his players have what it takes to turn things around.
Yeah, the thing that gives me the most confidence is the quality of the players we are having. So, and the amount of chances these players are still creating. So this will eventually always lead to these players scoring more goals than we've done till now. And we have to address certain other things. But yeah, if I talk about that, if I'm speaking about what we have to improve, people then tell me I'm using excuses. So maybe it's better now just to say we need to address certain things.
Yeah, Arne Slot there saying, maybe he doesn't want to keep talking about the reasons why they've lost, because it ranged from everything to the way the opponents were playing against them. Difficult period for him, probably the most difficult of his managerial career. It's a full-blown crisis now.
Yeah, it's getting there. To be the champions, and he must, like last season, he must have thought, what's all the fuss about the Premier League, toughest league in the world? It's easy. He's come in there, wiped everyone aside, they won enough games, they lifted the trophy, everyone was happy, they spent an absolute fortune in the summer market. Yes, they didn't get the defender what they needed, Mark Gay, so they lacked cover there. But they went and got the Isaks, the Ekatikas, Wirtz, top draw players across Europe, and Ekatika's the only one at the moment, all right, mitigating circumstances regarding Alexander Isak because of the injuries. But they're just not settled. They really haven't. And no one's listening to excuses because you can't give any excuses, really. You shouldn't give excuses. It's just not been good enough. I just think you're big players. And whenever we highlight and we show some roles of Liverpool, we always show 2 players, 2 of the massive big players, Virgil van Dijk and Mo Salah. Now, we show them for a reason because they are the leaders. They are the 2 best players. Now, it's time, guys, for you to stand up, for everyone else in that dressing room to look. When you're having a bad time, even if you've been successful, you look and you say, where's the leader? You look at your manager, you see how he's coping with it. I'm not sure you're too enamoured when he's coming out in press conference saying we can't deal with the long balls. Teams sit on a low block, the long throws. He's almost telling the opposition how to play against us. But I think it's time for them 2 guys on the pitch, Mo Salah and Virgil van Dijk, to stand up and lead the rest of them. They're capable of doing it. They've done it before, and I think they will do it again. There's no doubt in my mind it will click sooner rather than later, and they're capable of going 15 games without getting beat. I'm sure of that. If you ask Mikel Arteta at the moment, who are the favourites to go and win it, and Pep Guardiola, they'll be looking over his shoulder, looking for a red shirt. In Liverpool, it'll be the time. They'll be the team. They'll be the team who will come with a run. You cannot win the title now in October, November, but you can certainly lose it. You'll be too far behind, and they're going that way at the moment. They need a result for their life at the moment.
Yeah, I think, when we just had in the bottom left of the screen there, the bigger picture, which is 6 defeats in the last 7. And what was scary was them losing to Crystal Palace in midweek as well, and the way in which they lost. And Arne Slot talking about lacking depth and not having enough depth. He made 10 changes to that side, 6 teenagers starting in that game, featuring in that game. Just tell me about the team that he put out.
I have to say I have 0 concerns about that team. And I think if you look at their fixture list, you understand why. An in-form Aston Villa side in this game week, They are the most informed side at the moment. 4 wins in the Premier League in a row. No team has that many. And Real Madrid, red hot Real Madrid next week with Trent Alexander-Arnold coming back to town. It would be insane for Liverpool to play a strong side when you have 2 tough games coming up. You want to be able to keep petrol in the tank and your options open, not just physically but mentally as well. You started off this chat by talking about Slot and the fact that he didn't want to talk too much about the reasons, and I understand why, because in PR terms, anything he says is used as an excuse against him, and in many respects he can't win. So I think he's got really good advice in that regard. I do think when you talk about the bigger picture, people suddenly forget all about what happened in the summer with Diogo Jota. I remember doing an interview with an ex-Arsenal player, Bakary Sagna, when he said he'd lost his brother. When he lost his brother, he thought he could continue the basic things. He couldn't do them. And it was only when a psychologist took him to one side and said to him, I can't see it, you're not, there's nothing there, that he realised he had to take some time away. And for all of the support we gave as a footballing community, as Planet, to Liverpool, I feel as though it's gone out the window and everyone's just judging them on football. But the players that were there, they had to stop and actually prioritise their own emotional well-being and the support of Jota's family. The players that arrived, as Tim will tell you, good players going into a side that is thriving will fly. Players who go into sides that are not doing very well, that aren't at it, they're going to struggle. Add to that the fact that Isak went on strike to force a move to Liverpool. That's a problem. Add to that fact that even if you are playing for Bournemouth like Kirkesh was, and then you make the step up to a superpower like Liverpool, it's a big step. Regardless of your playing in world football, Liverpool are a superpower. So there are a combination of things. There is no single answer as to why they're struggling. But I just think that to criticise a guy who dealt with Trent, who dealt with Van Dijk, who dealt with Salah last season, who dealt with coming into a new league and adapting to a club that had a national treasure, even though he was German, in Jurgen Klopp, and managing to make such a success of it, and then to turn around and say, oh, I don't know about him anymore. Crazy.
Yeah, very well said, actually, Darren, because people forget that grief isn't linear, and they look at the first 5 games of the season and say, they won the 5 then. But I think everyone agreed that Liverpool were not at their sparkling best even then. I want to bring it back around to Tim and just go back through the 10 changes he made in midweek, because I think you have an experience somehow in your managerial past where you've had to make a decision with, a League Cup in midweek or a cup game in midweek. And
yeah, a little bit different. I was at Aston Villa at the time, and the priority always was just to stay in the league. And it shows you how far Villa have come. And I needed the confidence, so I needed the result. And no matter what competition it was in, I wanted the boys to play and win. So I would play a strong side, I really would, because I think a win's a win and the momentum and the mood around the training ground becomes better. And I remember someone on the executive side at Aston Villa knocked on my door the day before one of the games and said, don't worry about tomorrow, it's a League Cup game, it's not important. It was the 4th round, similar stage to where we are now. So it's not really that important, this game, because the priority has to be the Premier League, rest the players for the weekend. I just said, listen, I'm the manager, I'm picking the team what I feel is correct for the game. And Aston Villa's fans out there will be amazed that it was actually Birmingham we were playing in the next round of the Cup. Now, I could not believe that someone was actually speaking to me on them terms, on football terms. It's a rivalry which is very strong. It is the biggest rivalry in the Midlands. I could not play a group of kids against Birmingham at home at Villa Park, and it would have just bred negativity and more negativity around the club. So I made a conscious decision, no, we're going to play, we're going to win the game, and we're going to springboard from there. And I just think a win's a win. I disagree slightly. I don't think he should play his full strength side, but I think he could have played a team capable of beating Crystal Palace without playing, your full strength, rest certain players, but be a little bit more competitive than that, because as soon as them team sheets come in, I could tell you who's going to win that football match. And I looked at that. They just they could not compete with that Palace side, and Palace are going well at the moment, and they're very good away from home, and they're a good cup side. They won the FA Cup last year, and they're going to go really deep into this competition as well.
Trophy they lifted in May. If they lose to Aston Villa tomorrow night, it will be 5 defeats in a row for the first time in the Premier League. In the wake of that deeply disappointing 3-0 defeat at home to Crystal Palace in the Carabao Cup on Wednesday night, Arne Slot has today sought to clarify his comments when he criticised the depth of his squad.
I'm completely happy with the team, with all the quality we have, and I'm also completely convinced by the strategy and the policy we have. But that makes it the issue, if you could talk about an issue, is that not all of them have had a proper pre-season or have been injured during the season. So then when 3 or 4 are injured, you go back to 16 players. So I am a firm believer in the fact that 20, 21 players are enough, but you have to keep them fit, as we did last season. And we are struggling a bit more to keep them fit for, in my opinion, obvious reasons, because Alex is a great example of this. Came to us, I think, the 1st of September. A few others have missed out on pre-season. A few others have had their injuries in pre-season. So it has been more difficult than last season to keep them all available. And if then a few of them are not available, then it comes down a lot towards the same players. And maybe last season we were more lucky, or now we're a bit more unlucky. Again, no excuses for our results before people are going to say this again. But we had to play a lot of away games with only 2 days rest in between. And that would have been a difficult schedule for every player last season. And I mean a player that has been fit throughout pre-season, throughout the whole season. But that has not been our situation. So there's nothing to do with the squad depth. It has to do with how we've went through the season in terms of injuries and availability, and players available to play every single time 2 games. The thing that gives me the most confidence is the quality of the players we are having, and we have to address certain other things. But yeah, if I talk about that, if I'm speaking about what we have to improve, people then tell me I'm using excuses. So maybe it's better now just to say we need to address certain things to do better. But there are a lot of positives to go into this week as well. Like I just said, quality of the players is the first and foremost, and the amount of chances we create from open play is still good enough to compete for the positions we want to compete for.
Slot was later asked whether it is important to now build from the back rather than focus on attack, but the Liverpool boss sees no reason to change his playing style.
It does go against my beliefs, but I've won games in the past, so we're talking about City away, that went maybe against my beliefs, but it was necessary to play it over there like that in the second half. So I would be more than open to adapt in certain situations. But I don't think the story is, at least in my opinion, is that we concede chance after chance after chance, and that we are too open, or that it's actually absolutely not like this. Every single game, maybe apart from Palace, because in the first half we could have been 2 or 3-0 down, and maybe the Brentford game, I think all the other games we deserved much more than we got, and we hardly conceded a chance.
After an entire month without conceding a goal, Arsenal's title charge is beginning to look formidable, having only conceded 1 shot on David Raya's goal across the last 3 Premier League games. And you can just see just how their brilliant defensive start, should I say, compares with the rest of Europe's top 5 leagues. Having only conceded 3 goals this season, their impressive rearguard could provide Arsenal with the winning edge they've been missing in previous title races.
We have to focus on the journey and what we have to do every single day. Fixing the outcome, of course, we want to win it, and the preparation is towards that. Great. And now you have said all the protocols, processes, ambitions, everything, and now you have to focus on what you have to do. If not, you get distracted with the rest, and I don't want any of that in and around the team. Because at the end, you learn that the margins at the end to achieve it or not are multiple. So it can be that an opposition plays 1 against the keeper, he scores that goal, you are champion. The other keeper saves it, you are not champion. It can be other injuries, it can be other decisions, it can be a mistake of mine. It can be that many factors that we cannot control that outcome. What we can control is what we can do the best. That's it.
Talking about Son.
Talking about a lot of things that can happen.
Well, might this be the undoing of their great run of form, though? The run-up to the Christmas fixture list is starting to look very busy, with that Carabao Cup quarter-final tie against Crystal Palace potentially falling on the 16th of December.
Well, every decision that we make in terms of a fixture has to be guided on two main things. I think players' welfare and then supporters. That's it. And the rest has to come very, very far away from that. And we should never forget that principle. That's the only thing I would say. Now, probably it's not easy, but it has to be doable, because if we are putting something that is not doable, then what are we doing? So it's doable for sure, so let's do it in the best possible manner, respecting players and supporters. That's it.
Right, let's start then by talking about those comments in his news conference earlier. Is he fair to talk about the injuries, or do you kind of look at it and say, with the amount of money you spent over the summer, that shouldn't be a problem, whatever happens?
I think you're always going to get people that are going to question that, just purely on the numbers that they've spent and also the amount of players that they brought in. But I can actually see where he's coming from when you're talking about players that maybe can't play 3 games in a week, or they're not up to speed to do that, and you'll have the fitness people in the background or the medical department
saying, like,
in your ear saying
that
he's maybe on amber this week or whatever, and it could be at risk if you then want to play him. So I think it's fair for people to maybe criticise a little bit those comments when you have brought in the amount of players, but you have to understand that's a manager that's trying to not just build and win right now, even though they are at that place at the moment. But he is trying to protect players, and he's going to want his players available for the rest of the seasons. And only people that are behind the closed doors there will know what's going on from a physical aspect.
Mark, when you look at the stats, I mean, it doesn't make for good reading, does it? 6 defeats in 7 in all competitions, 4 on the spin in the Premier League. The fact that they've fallen 7 points behind the leaders Arsenal now. Jamie Carragher is calling it a crisis. It feels like it's spiralling a little bit. What's your assessment of what's happening at Liverpool?
I think it's so early to label it a crisis, I'll be honest with you. I don't think it is that yet. I think there's certainly conversations that probably need to take place in-house. There's meetings, players and management meetings. Where is it going wrong? What is the big difference between last year and this year? But I agree with what Jody says in terms of these players that have come in. There's probably a lot of pressure on them as well to go and perform, because there's so many come in at once.
And price tag, right?
Price tag is huge. And I think Liverpool have probably in the past had a name for going a bit under the radar with their business that they do in transfer windows, whereas this has been so well documented, especially the Isak transfer and the Wirtz transfer. These have been all over. It's been a massive saga for so many months. So probably taking some adjustments.
And I mean, you know better than anyone what it's like to sort of reach the top of the mountain. I know it's completely different when you won the title with Leicester in the most sort of improbable of Premier League title wins. But how hard is it to go again?
It is difficult, I'll be honest with you. And like you say, you're
different
right to allude
situations,
to it being different. I think from my point of view, when we did win it at Leicester, there was an excitement the next season, mainly about the Champions League, because so many of us hadn't played Champions League football, and we'd had a bit of a disrupted pre-season in terms of we got entered into something called the Champions Cup, and we're used to playing, sort of going to Austria and playing a League 2 Austrian side, and so all of a sudden we're playing Barcelona. A
little bit different.
Yeah, it's totally different. But as well, there is similarities in terms of a disrupted pre-season. Slot spoke then about obviously the transfers disrupting it, and then obviously the tragic events surrounding Diogo Jota as well. And players that were close to him will grieve at different times, and it will take its toll at different times. So that's something I think we've got to bear in mind as well.
Yeah, I think you're very right to bring that up. Just a word on, you mentioned some of the big signings earlier. A huge one was Florian Wirtz, of course. Why do you think he hasn't clicked yet? Because it feels like the narrative around him is it's going to work out, it's going to happen at some point. Obviously, they're 9 games in and this is the situation. Is it a case of he's not in form at the moment? He obviously hasn't hit the ground running, but maybe players around him aren't in that form either?
Yeah, and I think, and also not just the price tag and stuff like that comes with it, but it's his position. He's a number 10. Now, if you want your number 10s to be firing on all cylinders, you need the majority of the people, particularly behind him, your midfielders, your defenders and all that, to be fluent in their possession, moving the ball well, getting you the ball in the right areas, getting you the ball maybe when you're demanding it. He's obviously playing in a different league as well, adapting to a different country in a different league whilst trying to impress in a team that is underperforming. So even at the beginning of the season when Liverpool were winning games and people were questioning, and I was one of them by the way, going, I haven't really seen much of Wirtz, but in the same time you're going, who is actually playing well for Liverpool at the minute? So we can all stand here and go, yeah, the price tag that are on players like him and Isak, but for someone who's come into a new league, who's young, in a position where, like I said, I think the rest of the team needs to be sort of firing on all cylinders, and they're certainly not helping him with the way that they're playing.
No. It feels like you look at it from sometimes with that coaching hat on as well, like you're saying, him integrating, and the fact it's a whole new league, new country, living in as well as playing in.
Yeah, and I've seen players that have come over particularly from the German league. I saw it with Kai Havertz struggling to settle at Chelsea. Timo Werner as well. It was difficult, not just because it was COVID times, but the amount of things that these young players have to deal with. You've mentioned the price tag and the fact that he is such a gifted footballer. We can all see that. There's no doubt in his ability, but they are moving country. We don't know. Has he got family that's come over with him?
We don't know all the
there's so much that could be going on behind the scenes. So no one's judging him at the moment as far as is he a top player, but at the moment, he hasn't performed to the level that he would like to, but nor has many of the Liverpool players.
Well, one of those is probably Mo Salah, who it just seems like he's, certainly not at the levels he has been the last few seasons for Liverpool.
No, and I think with Mo Salah as well, he's set his standards just so high,
and they're incredibly high, aren't they?
And it's always going to be difficult to replicate that, especially in a struggling side and when players around you aren't performing as well. So I think we got a reminder of his quality at the weekend against Brentford with his goal towards the end.
It was a great goal, wasn't it? Even though it was a bit of a consolation.
Yeah, but I think he's a player, along with Wirtz as well. I think you obviously know their quality. You can see it with Wirtz. You can see little glimpses of his quality, and I've got no doubt about that. It will click and they will come good, and once they do, then I think a lot of the Premier League teams will be in trouble, because it's a frightening thought that they could have all that front line and their attacking players in form.
Yeah.